The Vanishing Hitchhiker. It was a rainy evening in early October, and Daniel was driving back from a late business meeting in a rural part of Pennsylvania. His GPS had lost signal an hour ago, so he was relying on the winding country road signs to guide him back toward the highway. The drizzle blurred his windshield, and the dim headlights illuminated only a few feet of cracked asphalt ahead. Around midnight, as he rounded a sharp curve, he spotted a figure standing by the roadside. It was a young woman, no older than 20, soaked to the skin. She wore a pale blue dress that clung to her body, and her long dark hair looked heavy with rain. She raised her arm weakly, signaling for help. Daniel hesitated. Every warning about picking up strangers flashed in his mind, but something about the girl's fragile posture made it impossible to keep driving. He pulled over and rolled down the passenger window. "Do you need a ride?" he asked. The girl nodded silently, shivering. Daniel unlocked the door and she slipped into the passenger seat without a word. The car filled with the scent of wet fabric and something faintly metallic like iron. "Where are you headed?" Daniel asked, trying to sound calm. She whispered an address in a small town about 15 minutes away. Her voice was barely audible over the hum of the rain, but Daniel recognized the town's name. It was on his way back to the interstate. For the first few miles, neither of them spoke. Daniel kept glancing at her. She sat rigid, staring out into the night, lips pressed tightly together. The way she avoided his eyes made him uneasy. Finally, he asked, "Were you at a party or something? You don't seem dressed for this weather." The girl slowly turned to him. Her face was pale, almost colorless, and her eyes carried an exhaustion that looked older than her years. She gave a thin smile, but said nothing. Daniel's unease grew. He turned his attention back to the road, telling himself not to overthink. After all, she was just a stranger who needed help. About 10 minutes later, Daniel pulled into the outskirts of the town. The streets were deserted, the houses dark. "What's the street name again?" he asked. No answer. He glanced to the passenger seat. Empty. The girl was gone. Daniel slammed on the brakes, heart hammering. The seat was soaked where she had been sitting, droplets of water still clinging to the leather. His mind raced. He hadn't heard the door open, hadn't seen her leave. He was driving at 40 miles an hour when she simply vanished. Panic clawed at him. He pulled over, breathing hard, wiping his hands against the steering wheel as if he could scrub away the chill that crept into his bones. Finally, he decided to continue driving. Maybe he was imagining things. Maybe the long night and lack of sleep were playing tricks on him. He reached the address she had given, an old white house with peeling paint and a sagging porch. The windows were dark, except for a faint glow in the living room. He parked, stepped out, and knocked on the door. An elderly woman answered. Her eyes widened when Daniel explained that he had picked up a young woman who gave this address. The woman's face went pale. She opened the door wider and pointed to a framed photo on the wall behind her. Was this her? Daniel's stomach dropped. It was the same girl. Blue dress, long dark hair, delicate features. The old woman's voice trembled. "That's my daughter, Emily. She died in a car accident 20 years ago, right near that curve where you picked her up." Daniel staggered backward, his throat dry. The old woman shut the door softly, leaving him standing alone on the porch, the rain tapping against his shoulders. When he returned to his car, he froze. On the passenger seat lay a small crumpled ribbon, pale blue, still damp. When Rachel moved into her new apartment in Chicago, she was grateful to finally live alone. After years of sharing cramped dorms and noisy roommates, the small one-bedroom felt like a sanctuary.
The building was old but charming, with creaky wooden floors, high ceilings, and large windows that overlooked the street below. The landlord told her she'd be the only tenant on the third floor. The unit above hers had been empty for months, waiting for renovations. That was fine with Rachel. No footsteps above her head, no loud music, no strangers slamming doors. Just peace. The first week passed quietly. Rachel worked long hours at a nearby hospital, and when she returned home, she liked to curl up with a book or fall asleep to the distant hum of traffic outside. But one night, as she lay in bed scrolling on her phone, she heard it. Footsteps. A slow, deliberate shuffle across the ceiling. Rachel frowned. She sat up, listening. The footsteps crossed the length of her room, then stopped. She reminded herself the landlord had probably let in workers to check something. Still, she glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight. The next morning, she called the landlord. "Hey, I thought the apartment above me was empty, but I heard someone walking around last night." The landlord sounded puzzled. "That unit's locked. No one's been in there since last month." Rachel hesitated. "Well, I definitely heard something." "I'll double-check," the landlord promised. But when he called back later, he confirmed the apartment was still vacant. That night, Rachel tried to brush it off. She put on headphones and listened to music while preparing dinner. But at 2 a.m., she awoke to a new sound. This time, it wasn't footsteps. It was dragging, something heavy, scraping across the floor directly above her. Her heart raced. She turned on the lamp, staring at the ceiling as the dragging noise continued for nearly 5 minutes, then stopped abruptly. Silence pressed in on her until dawn. The next day, Rachel demanded the landlord unlock the upstairs unit while she was present. Together, they entered the dusty apartment. It was bare. No furniture, no boxes, just peeling wallpaper and a faint smell of mildew. No footprints in the dust, no signs anyone had been inside. Rachel wanted to believe it was all in her imagination, but deep down, she knew it wasn't. Over the following week, the noises grew worse. Footsteps at midnight, dragging at 3 a.m., a muffled thud, like something heavy dropping onto the floor. One evening, as she was brushing her teeth, Rachel swore she heard faint breathing through the vent in her bathroom, slow, raspy inhalations in perfect rhythm with her own. Her friends dismissed her concerns. Old buildings make weird noises," they said. But Rachel had worked in hospitals. She knew the difference between pipes clanging, wood settling, and footsteps pacing. One night, unable to sleep, she decided to record the sounds. She set her phone on the nightstand and hit record before closing her eyes. At 2:46 a.m., she shot awake. Footsteps again, louder this time, almost frantic, circling directly above her bed. Then came the dragging, scraping closer and closer until it stopped dead above her ceiling light. Her phone was still recording. The next morning, she replayed the audio. At first, it was exactly what she remembered, the footsteps, the dragging. But then, near the end of the recording, a voice whispered, "Rachel." Her blood ran cold. Shaking, she called the landlord again, demanding he send someone immediately. He reluctantly agreed to meet her at the building that afternoon. But when Rachel returned from work that evening, she found the front door of the upstairs unit unlocked, slightly ajar. A faint shadow flickered across the dusty floor as if someone had just moved out of sight. Rachel didn't wait. She grabbed a small suitcase, stuffed in whatever she could, and left the apartment that night. She never came back for the rest. The landlord later told her he had gone upstairs the next day and found nothing, no intruder, no signs of forced entry. But when he checked the old floorboards, he found something disturbing. Deep scratch marks gouged into the wood, circling the spot directly above Rachel's bed.